So I did a test email. I think I rarely get so many replies as through this test email that actually people say, I like you even more. This shows me I'm in the right spot because.
Welcome to The Creator's Adventure, where we interview creators from around the world hearing their stories about growing a business. I've heard people say that cohorts and launches, all of that is dead. Well, today's guest is going to prove that wrong. Hey everyone, I'm Brian McAnulty, the founder of Heights Platform. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, we're here today with Sigrun. She is an acclaimed business coach, a best-selling author, and host of the Sigrun Show podcast. Known as a leading business mentor in Europe, she's dedicated to advancing gender equality through female entrepreneurship and guiding women to launch and grow their online businesses to seven figures. Based between Iceland and Switzerland, she's passionate about helping others kickstart their online businesses, and her latest book, Kickstart Your Online Business, Create an Online Course and Start to Make Sales, is now available on Amazon. Sigrun, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, Brian.
Yeah, sure, you're welcome. So my first question for you is, what would you say is the biggest thing either that you did or you are doing that has helped you to achieve the freedom to do what you enjoy?
It was creating a scalable course. I was doing okay, but working a lot of hours. I started doing one-on-one, like most business coaches or business mentors, or even just people who take their knowledge and want to sell it. I was doing one-on-one, then I did group programs, and I was in my fourth year of online business. And I joined a mastermind, like many of us do, and you want to learn how you can grow faster. And I come into the first mastermind call very proud that I've sold out all my group programs for the year. And instead of getting praise from my business coach, which of course I was hoping for, he just asked me back, and you've got nothing else to sell for the rest of the year? And that hit me. I knew I should be creating a course, but always I felt I had to, another group program, more one-on-one clients, I got to get better at this or whatever. And I was just holding myself back. There was nothing else. And out of that, I quickly decided to bring out the program. I had not created anything, just wrote down a sales page. It wasn't even one page long. It was so short. It's probably the shortest sales page I've ever created in my life. And I hosted a webinar within a week of that comment and sold 50 spots for my first online course, which was $1,000.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah. And from there on, I was able to triple my revenue that year because I had an online course which I could sell again and again and again without it costing me more time. So creating an online course and be able to actually sell it through launches was my biggest breakthrough, and still is today.
Awesome, that's great to hear. Yeah, I think myself, I started as a service-based business as well, doing originally like graphic and print design and web design. And I think that's a really good way to start business, and it gives you something you can begin to offer right away. There's nothing you have to build. You don't even really need a website. But I think that when you do that, everyone comes to a point of realization that like, oh, wait a second, I'm using up all my time. How am I going to grow this? Because there's either I can raise my prices or maybe I can hire people. But it gets to a point where you realize like, oh, this is like, based on what I've currently built, there is a limit of what I can earn and what I can impact. And so creating courses and digital products is a way that you can now leverage that, and it's no longer tied to your time. And for me, it was an incredible moment. The first dollar I made from something that was a digital product, where being able to wake up in the morning and say, wow, somebody bought this from me, versus like even though like maybe like I remember the time when it happened, like a week before I'd landed like a 5-figure web design contract, and the dollar or so that I made like in profit from the digital product felt better than that did. So
Yeah.
really a powerful thing.
Yeah. And then the next step
So
after creating a course is really
mhm.
also how to be able to scale up the launches, like, because, you know, my very first launch after this first test round, this webinar where I sold 50 spots, the next one was, how can I sell, you know, 100 spots? How can I sell 150 spots, 200 spots? And also increasing the price. So instead of my program being $1,000, now it's $3,000. So when I go into a launch, I'm aiming for 500 or 750 sales. So we're talking about millions of dollars with one campaign, and that's literally life-changing. Suddenly you can go ahead and buy a new apartment after a launch, and in the beginning, you know, as you said, it was just selling my time, and I didn't see how I could scale.
Yeah. So when you started out, you mentioned like you were doing the group coaching. What was originally when you started your business, like what was the thought? What was the kind of person you wanted to serve, and like how has that changed, or has it changed at all today, or did it just shift in like leveraging that through the online courses?
The person is similar. In the beginning, I was very focused on helping whoever wanted to sell something online and helping them. I had been a CEO for 10 years before I started this business, so I had substantial business experience. I was new in the online business space, so I had to learn a thing or two myself, but I was helping people who wanted to create a program and sell it. Not necessarily courses, that was not the beginning. So they could be selling anything, a book or one-on-one, and I took on anyone, as we do in the beginning. And then I realized at some point that I wanted to work with people who are actually more ambitious. They actually want to scale up. And so today, my messaging is different. I don't want to help people that want to sell one-on-one programs. Like, I don't want to help you sell more of your time. I want to help you if you actually want to scale up. And the first step is to create a course. And so for me, that's always the first step, to create a scalable course. And then you need to learn how to sell it. And there is really just not so many ways to sell a course. You can launch it, which I find is most effective and most fun. It's my favorite thing to do. You can have a funnel. You're not going to sell as much. Conversion rates are lower and it takes longer time. And then, of course, you can constantly post on social media and hope that people DM you and you can sell it that way, kind of organically, manually. Launches are most effective. But a lot of people are scared of them. But there's nothing to be scared about once you've learned the principles of launching and how the psychology of how people get excited about something and how you deliver value to them before they need to make up their mind whether they want to work with you or not.
Yeah, I like that. So we saw on your website, actually, you mentioned that only 2% of female-led businesses achieve a seven-figure annual revenue. What do you think are the most common challenges that women in business face, and how would you guide them to kind of overcome those obstacles?
The reason I decided to work with women, and actually I do work with men too, but my messaging is more targeted towards women. You know, that's my mission, to accelerate gender equality, is because they first of all, often start a business out of a need for freedom. And a man will start a business more kind of like, hey, I want to make money. So the problem with the freedom angle is that often they keep themselves down. They charge low prices. They don't think even of scaling to 6 figures or even 7 figures. It's like far away. It's really just, I want to make a little extra money. So it's more like a side hustle thing. And I really would like to shake women up and say, hey, that's not how you achieve financial independence. That's not how you can stand alone on your feet or even take care of your family. And that a bigger business is not more work. That's a common belief that let's say a 6-figure business or multiple 6-figure business is somehow more work. And I'm like, no, it's less. It's less work, because in the beginning you have to do everything on your own. But once you have the funds to hire people, you actually start to kind of focus on doing the things you enjoy doing, being in your zone of genius, and everything feels lighter. So even though you're working the same amount of hours, these are fun hours. These are the things that you actually enjoy doing versus doing the things that you're not good at and don't enjoy doing. And the self-confidence is a big thing. I have this program, Kickstart, where I take women through creating a course and selling it. And then I'm very glad, I'm very happy when they get a lot of sign-ups for the course, and I'm super excited that they get, start to make money. But the one thing that I am actually looking for, and that's not what I put in my marketing message, but me personally, I want them to start to believe that they can do it. And that's anyone who starts to believe in themselves, I think then nothing can stop them. When you believe that you can do something, even if it seems like a huge task, I don't know, to stand on stage or, do a big launch or invest into Facebook ads or something that felt so scary. When you start to believe in yourself, anything's possible. And that's what I'm looking for. And unfortunately, something happens. I don't know, I'm not a psychologist, but a lot of women do not believe in themselves. And so if there's anything I can contribute, I want more women to believe in themselves. And then, of course, I want them to make a lot of money.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think around the idea of money and how some people have this mindset of thinking like, oh, well, I don't really need more than whatever. They just settle with something and say like, oh, it's a side hustle, something like this. I think that's something a lot of people struggle with, and myself as well. Like, I feel there's been points where like maybe I didn't like or care about money enough that I should have. And I think a way to look at it, like there's nothing wrong with having money or making money. And if anything, even if you think you don't need it necessarily, it's not about like need it or something like that. But when you have more money, when you're earning more money in your business, now all of this opportunity is opened up to you that you can do these things that you're going to make a positive impact with. So if you believe that your business, that you're teaching something, that you're providing something that is going to make a positive impact on people's lives, then if you would want to grow that to be able to impact more people. And when you have more money, now you have all these options that like, oh, well, what if we could do this kind of thing that would make a big live event or do something like this. And now all of a sudden these opportunities are available to you because you have the money to spend on that, to hire people, like you said, and all of this. So yeah, I think it's a good way to look at it like that. You don't have to need it for yourself to go and buy fancy cars or whatever, but you can have it for your business to be able to invest and continue to further impact people.
I do this exercise with my clients. Depending on where they are in business, I'll pick, what would you do with $1 million? What would you do with 10 million? What would you do with 100 million? And so I make the number extra big, but not like crazy high. And then they just make some decisions like, oh, they would invest in this and that, but also what kind of impact, legacy, like what they leave behind. And then it starts to kind of shift. Oh, actually, I need this $1 million now because I have all these projects that I would like to invest in. What if I can invest in female-led companies? We need more investors that invest in female startups. What if I, like you said, a live event? That was one of my dreams too. Because, live event, that costs 100,000 or multiple six figures to do a proper live event. And then you don't have to worry about if the event has a return on investment or not. You're just like, hey, I can host a live event. I can invite all my clients. And that's what I'm doing in a couple of weeks from now. I'm inviting all my clients from the last 3 years. We're finally coming together after a big break. And they get a free ticket if they've been working with me. And, being able to do that also separates you from the rest, from the competition or the perceived competition, is that you can do things like that. So I think money needs purpose. And if you don't know what it is, do an exercise. What if you actually had this cash right now? How would you spend it?
Yeah, it's a great way to do it, a great exercise.
Yeah.
We saw in your bio, you also mentioned the tough love, no nonsense approach to business coaching. So do you have any examples, or can you explain more of what you mean by that, of where you've kind of applied that approach?
Yeah, I really believe in tough love, and it sounds a little bit scary because people do not really like it. Like, no one is going to ask, oh, can you give me some tough love? But once people are in my world and understand how I operate and that it actually comes from love, like, because I want them to be successful, I'm not going to sugarcoat my advice. and I will say it very directly. I had a client last year who had been me for several years, and I knew her very well. And she is a veterinarian, and she wanted to have a dog training membership, and she had been doing it for a while. But I knew her, after so many years, I knew her quite well, and I said, I don't think you actually like doing what you're doing. Because if you did, you would be more successful. And I can understand that could hurt. And I know it did hurt her, that comment. But 2 weeks later, she came back to me and said, Sigrun, you're right. I do not like this business at all. But the thing is, I studied it, and therefore I thought I had to do it. And I didn't give myself permission to do something else. She took this chance, which I kind of said, hey, I'll give you permission to do something new, something different. And you don't need to be educated in it, just go ahead and do it. So last January, she went through my program one more time, just like a total beginner in online business. And she created a course for women who want to write a book. And she got hundreds of people signing up with no website, no profile, no prior content. She got, I think, 120, 130 women to sign up for a free course. It was a free course. After that, she sold, 10 spots to another course. And she's been repeating this process. Now there's nothing for free anymore. And just last week, she had a launch with making $10,000. And that's good. Imagine if I wouldn't dare to be so direct and I would just continue helping her. Oh yeah, you want your dog training membership. And that's to me BS. Like, then you are not helping your client.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important to do that sometime. I think it can be frightening for a coach, especially a new coach, to say those things, even if you're thinking them. But I do think it's important because how would your customer or your client actually get to that spot or have that realization if you didn't share that hard thing with them?
Yeah. And you might have the odd person, like I have had thousands of clients in the last 10 years. And I remember one incident where a person said, I do not appreciate this, Sigrun. And I said, okay, I'll back off, but then you're not getting my truth. Yeah. So
Yes.
Don't be worried about it. Go ahead. There is the right client for every coach as well. And if this is upfront, that's why I use it in my marketing message.
Yeah.
So they are a little bit scared of me, but not too much.
Yeah, and they have some expectation that they know what to expect.
Yeah.
So in your book, Kickstart Your Online Business, you talk about creating online courses as a way to make sales. Can you share some insights into what you see as what makes an online course successful?
Yeah, I think what I saw in my first years of business, there were so many people that sit down and create a course. And then they came to me afterwards and said, Sigrun, how do I sell this course? And I was like, that's not the right way to approach it. And out of this frustration of people actually starting on the wrong end, I decided to develop a new process. So a successful course needs to go through beta testing. It's just like you create a minimum viable product. If you are creating a new software or anything else, car, you want to create the minimum viable product, you want to get it tested, you want to get feedback. And so because all the things that we think we know as experts, many of them are not true when it goes out in the real world. So I let my students first do a survey, and it's a good indication of how many survey responses you get on how much excitement there is around the topic of your potential course. Then interviews, I say minimum 3 interviews, because there's only so much information you can get in a survey. And I know this is not rocket science, but most people don't do this. So survey and interviews is kind of the basic start when you're creating a new thing, whatever that thing is. Then instead of going ahead and actually creating a course, let's say you get great survey responses, great interviews, and you're like, I know this is going to be a hit. I still recommend that you have the first round for free and you create a free 4-week course. Maybe your idea is to have a 10-week course later on. That's fine. Just create a smaller version. And it's 4 weeks is the minimum course for me. Anything shorter is not a course. That's like a challenge or a video series. And because the issue is, after knowing what you want to create, is how do you get enough people into your world? Like, a lot of people have an issue building their email list. And I said, this is a fantastic way. This is not a regular freebie. This is a once in a, well, maybe not a lifetime, but it's a special chance. Like, you should not have to do a beta course every year. Maybe you do one beta course and then, that could be your signature course for the rest of your business. So it's like a one chance of your followers to do this experience and do it for free. And then you get feedback every week, and then you can adapt the course to their needs. At the end, they give you a testimonial, and we teach people how to do that. And then you have an opportunity to sell to the people. We do a celebration call after the 4 weeks, and that's where I teach people how do you sell to a warm audience that's gotten a great value from it, because people will be asking. And that's what typically happens in these programs. People are asking already, what can I buy from you, before even the course ends. And this creates a sellable course. You have testimonials. You have like real people who have gone through your program. And I ask people at the end, do an assessment. Is there anything you need to change about your course, or is it ready to go? Do you want to make it longer? Or is 4 weeks just fine? And I have clients that are now making millions a year in revenue that created their first course maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago. And they still have the same 4-week course. Some of them have made it into 8-week course. But to me, this was like the best way to do it, because I saw the other way didn't work. Don't create a course without testing it with real people. And I decided to name this Kickstart, because I thought this is how it kicks it off, your online business.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, I just want to echo like that same advice. It's so important to get that early feedback and validation, because let's say that you don't do any of that. Let's say that you just build it. You put in all this effort to building this course. You put in all this effort to marketing it. And let's say like actually it just happens to go great. Let's say you get customers, you get sales, but then they go through it. There's points that they're confused about, and you don't really get any good testimonials or reviews from that. And now, where are you at? You're at this situation where to go and do that again, you have to go through that same struggle of trying to go through things, because you don't have any social proof or anything to really help you along. Where instead you could make it so much easier for yourself. Find out what people want. Find out what questions you haven't been answering in what you've created so far. Get testimonials from them, and now use that to go and sell it. And the whole process is just so much easier. So even for things that you think that you really believe, like, I know exactly how to do this, it's still so valuable to get that feedback, because there will be things that you didn't think of that somebody else is thinking about, or somebody else has questions about, and that will really, really be valuable. Like I've built courses a lot myself, and I've helped so many people build courses, and still, like, we're working on a new course. First thing we did, like, we know how to title a result for a course. We always tell everybody, you've got to build the course around the result. Yeah. And we came up with a couple quick titles. None of them were actually good. None of them actually followed the full rules of what we would do. But then we put them into ChatGPT, and we asked ChatGPT which one is the best. And then we asked our audience, do you guys agree with ChatGPT? What do you guys think? And we could have improved it much more before even going through that process. But then by going through that process, it was still really important for us, because we found out not only what resonated best with our audience, but also why and what they're actually looking for. And so now we're informed much better of like what we should actually build. So it makes your life so much easier as a course creator to definitely follow Sigrun's advice on that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned before that you really like launches. there's the different ways you can structure an online course business. You can have these launches. You could have like an evergreen course where it's kind of always available for purchase. Why do you personally prefer the launches?
I believe in the community part of everybody doing the same thing at the same time. And I found out, not necessarily by accident, but the first online course I created was like a 12-month program. And I gave them modules and master classes and hot seat calls and who knows what. And then I was shocked to find out after 1.5 years of doing it that my guesstimate is that 15% were actually successful and the rest was just like in the program. And I could have continued. I would have later made a lot of money, but I was just frustrated. I was like, people join my program. I want to get them results. I want them to be successful. That's when I came up with the Kickstart process. And I run it like a boot camp, you know? Everybody's doing the same thing at the same time. And when they come into the program, first they're just like, oh, what could be your course idea? And you need to create a survey on it. And then I have them commit again. So they basically have to apply, even though they've paid, they apply again. Like, I am committing to doing this course and da-da-da-da-da. And then it's like, have you submitted yet? We have so many submissions. We're missing so many. And we make it almost like an internal thing to motivate the people. The thing is, people buy programs and don't do anything with them. And it's it's a problem that I wanted to solve. And I knew that 10-15% was very normal in online business. When people buy programs, about 15% or even less actually finish them. And how do I make people finish is when everybody's doing the same thing at the same time. There is motivation to finish. There are deadlines, like you need to have your course idea by this date because I am going to promote it. But if you don't submit by this date, I will not promote your course. So there is an incentive built in. And we do this like throughout the whole 10 or 12 weeks of the program. And so that every time I think about evergreening this, I'm like, how should I do that? You know, because I see it's really not about the content. What I'm teaching is not rocket science. And you can even read about it in my book on Amazon or download it for free through your podcast. But the thing is, people need accountability. They're just not going to do it. And I'm thinking about the 80% in the middle. Like, there's going to be 10% that never do anything. There's no way to chase those. We have a 90% completion rate by motivating and following up, even personally. I sometimes joke to people, I'll knock on your door and they're like, really? Will you come to my home? I said, I might. Or I'll send someone that I know that lives in your country. Because I really care about people finishing what they start. And you can't do that with an evergreen program. You just have to leave them be and they'll do it or not do it. And that may valid. There are programs which I call more like library courses, learn everything about creating a sales page. I don't think you should do that with bootcamp style. Because, maybe you don't need a sales page this week. Maybe you need it in 3 weeks, and then you'll sit down and use the program. But if it's about...
And maybe you don't need everything about it. Maybe you need one specific piece, and it's nice to be able to go and find that.
Exactly. And these are what I call library courses. And they should not be drip-fed. They should, what I call all access, and you can sell them on Evergreen. But there are programs where you actually want people to do something and get it done. And the only way I see possible to do it for the average student, not for the super ambitious one, they need the accountability, they need follow-up motivation. And that's through launches and drip-fed.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that besides like the accountability, the engagement and how it helps, it also, like you kind of alluded to this, but it also helps like you supporting the students. Because if it's an evergreen course and people are just all joining at different spots, different times, it's really hard to get a sense of like, well, this person just emailed me, where are they at right now in the course? But if it is a launch and it's happening at the same time for everybody, somebody emails you after the first week, you know exactly the content that they've just been through, and you
Yeah.
can support them much more easily.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah, I
also
think.
that my character better. I'm from Iceland originally, and we go and fish when there's fish in the sea. And if there's no fish in the sea, we can relax and do something. So I prefer personally to be very busy for 3 months
Mm.
of running the program. And then the rest of the year, I'm preparing for the next campaign or selling something that is evergreen. So it fits my personality much better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point as well, because I think while there's so many great reasons to have launches as the way that you're promoting the course versus evergreen, evergreen can also make sense for some creators because like it may fit your personality better in what you want to deliver and how you want to run your business.
Yeah.
But I do think it's great that you mentioned this because I've heard a couple creators express to me recently and they say, Brian, like I feel like cohorts are like dead. And I didn't have that sense at all. So I was kind of shocked to hear that, but I heard it from a couple different people.
Yeah.
And I do think what they what the reality of what they actually meant was is that there was this time period in the last like couple of years where everybody was saying like join my cohort and like that was a marketing term
Yeah.
that started to become very popular and I think that kind of fell off now. But the idea of running this launch and having a cohort, a group of students go through your program at one time, it's definitely not dead and it's definitely very, very powerful.
Yeah, yeah. We don't call it a cohort. I think we did it a little bit, but it was like an inward that went out of fashion. So yeah,
Hmm.
we have to be careful as marketeers. So, anyone who's marketing anything is automatically a marketeer, and there's always something that goes in a fashion or out of fashion. I would say if there's one thing I need to do now after 10 years doing this, and this particular program I've been selling for 5 years at least, you gotta because with more competition, pandemic and everything, more people are online. We need to always go back. Even someone who's been in business so long as me, we cannot assume that our ideal client is exactly the same one as 5 years ago. We
Hmm.
might need to niche down a little bit more. So I said for a long time, I help women start and scale from 0 to 7 figures in online business, something like that. And that's a very broad thing. I didn't mention that actually I do this through online courses and launches. So that is also something that everybody needs to think about who is in business, even though you're starting out now, niching down, like be really specific on what you're selling. Like, are you selling online courses or memberships, or are you helping people sell online courses and membership? Then say that. Are you helping them get to 10K a month through premium programs? Then say that. Instead of being very broad, then I say, I help you build your business.
Yeah, definitely agree on that. And yeah, don't be worried. Don't think like, oh, I'm going to be too specific. That now there's no audience left. Chances
No.
are there's definitely enough audience for you to
Actually,
capture,
more
even with a
people.
niche.
Yeah, I did a test the other day. I did a test email that I asked people to tell me if they liked it. I help people create online courses. No, I help you get to 100K a year with your $500 course. Because I did I didn't do a proper survey, but I was observing launches around in my community. And I realized that all the price points were around $500. And I'm like,
Mm.
maybe I should talk about it. So I did a test email, and I think I rarely get so many replies as through this test email that actually people say, I like you even more. This shows me I'm in the right spot. Because, when you talk about cohorts, it's also very in to sell premium programs right now.
Mm.
Everybody and their dog is selling a premium program, and you have to charge 5K or 10K or 20K or 50K. But maybe it's good to actually say more specifically what you do, and then people are actually more attracted to it. So it's not that niching actually gets you less clients, it gets you more because people finally know what you stand for.
Yeah, yeah, they convert so much better. Because imagine if you arrive at a web page and it says it provides some generic business advice, then you're sitting there thinking like, okay, maybe maybe this can help me, but then you could just as easily just leave that page, go do something else.
Yeah.
Whereas if somebody's really targeting like your specific niche of what you want to do, and you arrive at that web page, you're saying like, wow, I found the answer. This person actually does exactly what I'm looking for. And so you have a lot more trust and confidence that you can get what you actually need.
Yeah. And I totally understand it's scary. Even I found it scary to send out this test email. I'm like, oh, am I alienating some other people who might be on my email list and they want to sell premium programs? And am I not helping them? And I realized I had to take my own coaching advice that no, you'll get them also, the people around the edges, but you'll get
Yeah,
more people if you're specific.
yeah, definitely. So I think for many creators, making that first sale is a really big step. What advice would you give to somebody who they are just starting out, they haven't gotten their first online course customer yet, and how can they start to kind of plan that? What's kind of the best step, I guess?
Well, the first step is to do a survey. So be very specific. So let's say you want to create course, I don't know, on dog training. You could make a post on social media and you could say, I'm looking for, 5 people who own a dog who want to, get some free coaching. And please, I'll fill out this survey by, just give them 3 days max. And Google form is great, it's free. I would ask very few questions because otherwise people will not fill it out. I would always ask them, what's your biggest challenge right now? What would be your dream solution? Have you tried anything in the past? And can I contact you for further information? Or would you like a free coaching call? And get people to fill it out. And if you get more than 5, great. But it's sometimes better to be specific, that you're just looking for 5 and not trying to get 100. And really, just 5 questions. And it doesn't matter what niche you're in. You're always looking for the biggest pain point, and you're always looking for what do they want? What is their dream outcome? And if they've tried something and it didn't work out, that's helpful too. And then you want to ask if you can add them to your email list, because if you get a lot of people filling it out, it would be great if they come onto your email list. And that's really the starting point. And how do you analyze the answers? Well, now we have ChatGPT, which is fantastic. So if you ask for name and email address, you obviously do not put that into ChatGPT, so make sure you exclude that. But you take the rest of the information and you just ask ChatGPT what's common among these answers. Like, what's the most common challenge that's coming up? I used to do this manually before we had ChatGPT. I would just go through a survey and I would color it yellow in my Google Sheets when I saw it's similar answers. And then it's obvious what is the first course idea. It's the biggest challenge we want to solve. And we want to make sure we're not trying to solve world's hunger. We're trying to solve a relatively simple problem. The simple problem would be something that's doable in 4 weeks, because if I help people scale to 7 figures, that's a 3-year journey. So we want to drill
Yeah,
it down.
more like concrete. You can get them from point A to point B.
Yeah, because the first step is the proof that you can help them. When you get that done, you can prove that you can help them with a small problem. They will trust you to help you with bigger problems.
Yeah, that sounds good. And you mentioned earlier too about how like in the survey and the people who fill that out really could be your potential customers. And I would just want to also say to that yeah, even if they don't express anything about wanting to buy from you, even if they make it sound like they don't intend on purchasing anything from you,
Yeah.
the people who contact you are so much more likely to be the people who become your customers. And so like in my business, anytime somebody reaches out to us, like if they reached out to us and they're talking with us, we make a note that we're going to follow up with that person
Yeah.
because they are a really high chance of that person becoming a potential customer. And so also after you get those surveys, then whenever you go to the next step, like don't forget about those people. Like they are your prime candidates for becoming customers of your course.
Yeah, they are what we call hot leads. And now also we can use social media a lot more. So getting them to message you is a great way to have a conversation. Someone messaging me and I have them often message me a code word. And I said, oh, tell me about your business. Tell me about, so you can figure out if you can help them or not just through a DM, which is often easier than emails because people are more likely to answer you, respond quickly.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. Okay. I've got one more question, and that is that in the kind of online course landscape, you've been doing this for a while. Is there anything you see like specifically that you've noticed that has changed over the years as far as like promoting things and like what works, what doesn't, like what's maybe working better now or differently now than it did a few years ago?
I think when you are promoting a course, you need, first of all, much longer time. You know, I used to be able to go into launches and I was like, I'll do some webinar in 2 weeks. Now we're talking more about a 6-week promotion where I'm running ads for 6 weeks. There's no way around not running ads. I think that's challenging for beginners in the beginning to just invest upfront and then see return much later. But the reach is down compared to a few years ago. People are also, the show up rates have drastically gone down. So if you do any type of a live webinar, one thing is, for instance, not to offer a replay to force people to show up, or have a giveaway like a workbook or whatever, like a show up bonus. Yeah, because, you know, and even just to get people to sign up for any type of a marketing campaign, you have to tell them the benefit, because people are somehow more pressed for time. There's more competition. There's more things we can sign up for or show up for.
Yep.
So
Yeah, it used to be the webinar was like this novel thing, like, wow, this person is going to train people online live.
for free.
And now it's like, well, everybody's doing that.
Yeah.
So you have to have something that's going to help you stand out and get people to pay
Yeah.
attention to you.
Yeah, we have my biggest marketing campaign is around Christmas, and it was enough for me to say, sign up for 12 days of masterclasses. You'll learn everything about online business. Button. That was it. Then I added the list of masterclasses I would cover, but the page was still very minimal. And we're going into another campaign, and I've told my team, we need to tell people why they should sign up. What's the outcome? And why should they spend time on 12 masterclasses? Like, you really have to put a more effort into the outcome. It's always been important when you sell something that's paid, but now it's super important when you have something for free. Why should someone invest this time? You have to almost think of this as a mini sales page, because you are asking them to take time out of the day to come to a free event, and you cannot take that lightly. You have to take that very seriously and talk to them as if they were buying something from you. So that is a big change. Plus, if you do something as crazy as I do, the 12 days of masterclasses, you have to give people options to maybe only attend 2 and still get a lot of value, or have summaries, or, you know, like prices for showing up. Like you have to add more things into it. Now, this might sound a bit scary to people who have never launched, so I don't want to come off as like, oh, this is gonna be, I would just say it's more time, generally. Give yourself more time. I think that's probably the biggest mistake I see, is that people start to promote too late, whatever they are promoting. And if you're an absolute beginner, I highly recommend doing a 3-day workshop over a webinar and over anything longer. I do very long launches, but I've been doing it for 10 years, so that's just my style. But 3-day workshops, the benefit over a webinar is that you give people true value. I love workshops rather than sales webinars. You give them value, and they do it on the call with you. They get assignment and they do it together with you. And then they can think about it, they sleep on it, they come back, they have some insights, and then you can continue and do some more assignments. And then on the 3rd day, you make an offer. And it doesn't feel like you have to get it all done in a 60-minute webinar, and you're like, oh, I have to teach them something, they have to know who I am, and now I have to sell to them. It's very stressful for someone who's not done a webinar before, and that's why I highly recommend 3-day workshops.
Yeah, I think that's great advice as well. And I would agree with the point of people kind of not promoting or not making their launch maybe long enough, where somebody, I constantly see the mistake of somebody saying like, okay, well, I launched it and it's like, hey, everybody, it launched. Hey, everybody, it's going to be over soon. And like, that's all they say.
Yeah.
But you have to tell people beforehand, like something's going to happen, and you lead up to the whole thing, and then and keep telling them. Don't just say like it launched. Remind them, hey, it launched yesterday. It launched, and remind them, hey, it's going to close soon. Hey, this is your last chance.
Yeah.
And all of those other emails around that are going to be often, especially the last ones, are going to be the ones that get you more sales, not that first one, just to say, hey, it's here. And so, yeah, don't worry about bothering your audience with that too, because like they signed up because they want to hear from you. They don't want to miss this thing. And so you want to help to get them engaged.
In the best launches,
So,
obviously, you've actually sold before you make the offer. That's the best launches. Like they've already like, oh, I like this person. I've gotten some breakthroughs on insights for free. And that's what you want to get to. And that's why you need to give yourself
yeah.
time with your audience.
Yeah. And I'm sure most creators, like you've probably gone through that experience buying a course or something from somebody else where you're following their emails, you're following that sequence or something, and you've got your credit card sitting there and you're saying, when is Sigrun going to send me that buy button? I'm ready to click the buy button. And you don't even know what it is yet. You don't even know how much it's going to cost, but you're ready to purchase because of everything that's led up to it.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Excellent. All right, so I've got one more thing, and that is I like to have every guest on the show ask a question to the audience. So if you could ask our audience anything, whether it's something you're curious about, something you want to get everybody thinking about, what would that be?
I was thinking of that question that I ask my clients. What would you do with $1 million? Let's imagine that you actually created an online business. You're selling courses. Your business is scalable. You're not selling your time. You're selling value. And you have your first $1 million year. Obviously, you're not going to have $1 million cash. We have costs and all of that. But okay, put that aside. But let's say you have actually $1 million in cash. What would you do with that? How would you spend that money? And I would be very specific. Do not say like 500,000 on a whatever. Like I would go and 53,000 and, and it really add it up. And you're going to realize that you can do a lot of things. Like, let's say you go on a dream holiday with your family. Maybe that only costs 30,000. It's not like it's going to cost 300,000. So I would be very specific. Do it like a proper budget, and then start to feel into how it's going to be when you actually have that money, because that's going to drive you to actually go for it.
Yeah, that's a great question to work on. All right, well, Sigrun, thanks so much for coming on the show. Where else can people find you online?
I am to be found everywhere on social media. Sigrun.com is my handle, and Sigrun.com is my website. And then I have a gift for your listeners, which is my Kickstart Your Online Business book, which describes my whole process from my signature program. And that's a great place to start to get to know more how to create online courses and scale up.
Awesome. And I got that link from you. So we'll put that link, everybody, in the show notes or the description of wherever you are watching or listening to this. All right, Sigrun, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me, Brian.